Hey guys, it's Destiny, and in today's video, I did want to discuss something that I kind of see as unfair, and I'm going to be explaining why, but it is in relation to the Silver Wolf and Luocha banners, and basically how they're both coming in 1.1 and my thoughts on both of these characters. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. So for Silver Wolf, I wanted to begin by telling you guys what she does, which she is a quantum character following the path of Nihility. She has a special ability, which this is very important, to inflict weaknesses onto enemies. When Silver Wolf uses her skill, there's a chance of inflicting a weakness. The weakness type will be the same as at least one of the allies in combat, which is really important, and whenever she attacks, she has a chance of implanting a random bug onto a target enemy, which can be the target's attack, defense, or speed. As for Luocha, he is an imaginary character following the path of abundance. His skill can restore a large amount of HP to a designated ally. When an ally's HP falls to 50% or less, an effect equal to Luocha's skill will immediately be triggered, which I like to call his emergency heal. Unleashing his skill or ultimate attack will accumulate stacks of Abyss Flower, and when the Abyss Flower reaches 2 stacks, Luocha will be able to consume all his Abyss Flower stacks, which will be able to deploy a field against the enemy, and when an enemy in the field is attacked by an ally, the attacking ally immediately restores a certain amount of HP. So now that I've given the brief rundown of Silver Wolf and Luocha, I'm going to be going first over Silver Wolf, why I think she's really good and possibly even more free-to-play friendly than you think. And then we're going to go over Luocha and then the general issue, if you will. So to begin, Silver Wolf, as we know, is an interesting debuffer who could do bugs, weakness implantation, and etc. How I personally believe she'll work, which is kind of contrary to common beliefs, is that she'll be able to stack the bugs that she puts on. Not necessarily like you can do a one defense bug and then the next turn apply another defense bug and it stacks, but rather you can do attack bug, speed bug, defense bug, and then of course her ultimate is also able to reduce defenses, so that can be applied as well. So as a result, she'll be able to have a lot of debuffs onto the enemy. Another thing I believe she will be able to do is that with her inflicting a weakness type onto the enemy, I personally believe that there will be some form of smart way that she does this, if that makes sense, as in basically when she inflicts the weakness onto the enemy, it will be a missing weakness that the enemy does not have. So let's say you have a team of some fire characters, maybe an ice character, and then Silver Wolf, and the enemy is weak to fire and quantum. I personally believe that majority of the time, if not all the time, when you use her skill, she will be inflicting the ice weakness that is missing onto the enemy. The other ways she can work is like the 50-50, like ice versus quantum, which I could believe can be accurate as well if the enemy is missing both elements. Like it'll be basically a coin flip as whether or not the enemy will be inflicted with the quantum weakness or the ice weakness if they do not have either. I have heard some say it'll be 75-25 if a quote-unquote mono comp, as in you have 3 of the same element and then her. Of course we will know once she's here, but I personally believe if the enemy is missing an element, she will prioritize that element, which in a sense you could possibly manipulate the RNG like factors, such as if you do dual element or if you possibly have rainbow comp. And let's say that the enemy had multiple weaknesses of your supports rather than the main DPS, or just whatever element that the enemy is missing. This can be very strong assuming she works the way I believe she will, which means for those more challenging modes, she will be able to provide more versatility in your comps if you are missing a main DPS element against the enemy or don't have fully built out characters with ideal builds in order to beat Memory of Chaos with 3 stars or so, depending on what you're going for, then Silver Wolf can actually be a very strong option, at least in my opinion. I believe her bugs will once again be really good, and essentially all of her debuffs mean that you can just have a bunch of damage reduction onto the enemy, you can reduce their attack, their speed, and so on. And of course, if you have enough effect hit rate, which in another video I did go over the importance of effect hit rate, which is actually my previous video, then Silver Wolf can possibly be consistent with that as well. Overall though, Silver Wolf to me seems like she will have immense potential, and I do believe her light cone, the free-to-play one that we will be getting from an event right as the new update comes out, will also allow her to be more free-to-play friendly than many may think, because then she'll be able to have more effect hit rate, and she'll also be able to get energy back from reducing defenses. So basically, when an enemy has reduced defense, and I believe if she attacks them, she will get back energy. Since her ultimate has a really high base chance of reducing defenses, and since you want to build effect hit rate on her anyways, and the fact that you have a defense reducing bug, there's a good possibility that you will be able to reduce the enemy's defenses at majority, if not at all times, depending on how you go about the fight, which means that she'll be able to get more energy back, which also means she'll just be able to restore her ultimate faster, keep that defense reduction onto the enemy as much as she can, and overall, I think it'll be really strong on her. Of course, I'll go over her once she's here, if she's good or not, for a post-release analysis, but I genuinely believe that Silver Wolf may be a bit overlooked as a character overall, especially for free-to-play, because I feel like this character, in theory, and just based on what I can read and make out of her kit, I feel like this character will once again have very high potential to be an amazing character to have on your team. Now for Luocha, he is able to cleanse, which means he's able to remove debuffs on the allies that you have. He's able to remove buffs from the enemy. He has his Abyss Field, as mentioned previously, that emergency heal, and he also is imaginary, which is currently rare, and he also seems like a strong healer in my eyes. He seems great for Memory of Chaos and has immense survivability with his Abyss Field, which can allow players who are struggling with Memory of Chaos, whether survival or just any game mode, to have a healer who can keep them alive, which is really good. And as a result, he's an insanely good character to get if you're missing other sustainable characters, or rather characters that can provide you sustain, like Bailu or Japard. And also look at him and his luscious locks. He is such a pretty character. He looks amazing. His supportive capabilities are very good, since for example, against the Kafka World boss, you'll definitely want to be able to cleanse your allies, otherwise they're going to be dominated by Kafka, and that's not very fun. Trust me, it's really not fun. It may sound fun, but it's not fun. And being able to remove buffs from enemies are also good. It's just another benefit that he has, which he's able to do that, of course, with his ultimate, and it is AoE, so if all the enemies have a buff on them, he's able to remove that. And overall, he just has a very strong skill kit at only E0 and can definitely improve majority of players' accounts. So now we get into the issue, if you will. Both of these characters are really good, and players will be met with a very hard choice on who to pick. I believe both will be really good for investment purposes. Silver Wolf can be even more viable once more characters arrive, since we'll be able to have varieties in comps and usage of elements just in comps, and Luocha is there for amazing survivability potential. Regarding future-proof, Luocha can be very good for the future, but we could end up getting a better healer or an eventual free or more accessible healer that can allow us to have that survivability we may need for harder content, but we don't know exactly when that is. For Silver Wolf, she can't really be replaced unless we get a new debuffer who can also inflict type weaknesses, who's either more accessible or just does it better than she does, which I would assume we're not going to get anything like that anytime soon, if at all. So now it comes down to, alright, who does someone pick? I can't really determine that for you, because once again, they're both really good. I do wish they both were either in different patches though, or hopefully we do get a lot of pulls from the 1.1 events, so that players can possibly not miss out on one of these characters, because they're just really good, really useful in what they provide. And I will say, if you do have Japard or Bailu, I would honestly highly recommend you pull Silver Wolf, unless you don't like her kit or design. But if you are considering her, in my opinion, I do think she'll be very strong, at least in my eyes. But if you're unsure, I'd wait a few days post-release to see, once again, that post-analysis on how good she truly is. Because of course there are doubts currently on if she's really RNG-like, if she's not, and so on. So of course these questions should be answered before someone fully invests into possibly pulling this character. I personally have high hopes. I will be pulling her myself day one. And also from like an RPG perspective, she just seems very strong, and I see immense potential in her overall. Regarding reruns, while the idea may be there, like to wait for one of these characters for a rerun, it's really hard for me to honestly recommend that, because we don't know when we're even going to get reruns, and we definitely don't know when we'd get a rerun for these specific characters. It would kind of suck if it becomes like a Eula situation in Genshin Impact. If some of you know what I'm talking about, yeah, that would be really rough. That's all I'm gonna say regarding that. Ultimately though, at the end of the day, picking your favorite characters is what matters, and playing who you want to. I just thought I'd share my thoughts on why both of these characters are honestly amazing picks, and why it's a bit unfair players have to make such a huge decision like very early on. on which one to possibly skip. Since both provide a lot of usability for your teams, it's just so much utility just in both of these characters. And in my opinion, I feel like harder content will become a bit easier, if not a lot easier, with both of these characters. So overall, just let me know what you guys think. Are you guys more on the Silver Wolf train, the Luocha train? Are you skipping both of them, possibly for Blade or Kafka or someone else? Let me know, because I'd love to know where you guys are currently on who you think you should spend your Stellar Jade on. As I said, personally, I will be pulling Silver Wolf day one. Luocha, I am a bit on the fence on. I'm not 100% sure about that one. But for Silver Wolf, I just love her character. She's such a great looking character. Her gamer-esque and also her trailer made me like her even more. So that's definitely the one for me. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more Star Rail content from me. Leave a like and also leave that comment once again. And I hope all of you have a nice one. Peace.